Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. So it's a pleasure for me to see you here. So I'm Tony Tiyu, founder CEO of Renewables in Africa. And what is quite interesting is through the different series of podcasts we've had, is always to bring people that are very, very interesting and very important for the continent, for our continent to move forward. And what I have today for you, you're going to be delighted and excited. It's a very, very inspirational woman, but I won't tell you more because I want her to tell you exactly who she is. I have with me Jeanine Mabunda. So Jeanine, how are you today?
I'm very fine, thank you, Tony, and thank you for receiving me.
Excellent, excellent. Well, you're a very important person from DRC, Congo, so Democratic Republic of Congo. And like I say, I've deliberately refrained from introducing you because, like I say, I didn't know where to start. But I want you to tell us exactly who is Jeanine Mabunda. So why did I find interesting to have you today? So who are you?
I mean, to put it simply, I'm a proud African woman, originate from Congo and especially Equator Province. And Equator Province in Congo, it's the Congo Forest Basin. And I'm someone who has worked hard to have a meaningful impact on issue what I'm passionate about. And obviously in that journey, I've faced many challenges, but I've tried to break down some barriers as a woman and to avoid this barrier to help me back. But in general, without getting into the details of a long and quite arrogant resume, I would say that I'm someone who wish to make things happen, who wish to make things move, and especially in the area of women and girls and new generation, not only for me, but for my community, for my country, and for Africa, to have another look of the Africa we like, the Africa which is moving now.
Yeah, I can definitely see that you are making things moving, definitely making things happening, right? So from what I have seen, clearly, you will not be where you are right now if you haven't done something or achieved something. So what is the secret to really have such a multifaceted career? Because when I look to that, I think you moved from politics into business, into advocacy, and you're not done yet. And I was like, wow, so how many lives did she have?
I don't know if I have many lives, but I am like all the African women, we say that we are like the goddess of Shiva from the Indian culture, where you need in Africa as a woman to get like 9 hands to face all the challenge. But what I would say is that, like I said, I like things when they are impactful, not for me, but for the community, because Africa is about community, it's about team working. And that keeps me motivated. And there is not a secret, basically, but it's like a journey. I told it, a journey, and there is no shortcuts. The main things on this journey is the hard work and the discipline. Whether you have a career as speaker at the National Assembly, being the first woman, whether you are special representative going on the field in Eastern Congo to combat sexual violence and to try to call on rebels to stop abuse on these women and girls, whether it's in the private sector, because at the beginning of my career, I worked in the bank sector. And from the bank sector, private bank sector, up to public bank sector, it leads me to public office. So, but some things remains constant. It's always working hard, and you commit yourself with a vision and with a measure or a parameter, which is, does it change something for the people that I do serve? Does it change something for some communities? Because that's where I like to be, and that's where I like to make the difference. So I think that working in this different area make my journey impactful, probably, but it's also natural to say that it will not happen. It will not happen without meeting incredible people who believe in me, who mentor me, who help me.
Excellent. I think you mentioned a couple of things that are very important that I'd like to come back if that's okay with you. As we said, we mentioned about the fact that your career is very rich, right? So you've had a level of experience that I think people can only dream of in many lives, as I said. So, and I wanted to know, because you also started very young, sort of getting engaged, involved into all the different sectors you've been into. You've been to banking, you mentioned, you've been into politics, I think you've been into advocacy. And now usually when you start as a young person, you have an idea of what you want to do. And you get down to reality, sometimes that idea could be killed or you get disappointed. And I wanted to know, so in your particular case, since you started, do you have like a vision that you really sort of had in you that stuck with you? Or, oh, that's fine, I think that...
Yes, it's true that I had a vision, and that the vision was a little bit naive. You know, when you are young, you want to change the world. And when you get older, you don't want the world to change you about your values and ethics. So obviously my vision has evolved over time. It's true that in all this path and that lane that I follow, I had to overcome challenge or defeat some stereotype about a woman being able to do this or not, and African woman being able to do this or not. But more doors open, and the more I was daring, the more I was bold, more door opening. And if we want to help the next generation, you have to show that it's possible. It's possible. I'm not a special person. I come from a very modest family. I will say that my grandmother was a fisherwoman in a place where there is no roads. There is more lake, and you live on the lake. So the home is on the lake, and your best job is to be a fisher girl. So, but my grandmother decided that my mother has to go at school at Catholic church. They were doubtful that it was useful for young girls to leave the home on the lake and to stop fishing, to go 8 hours sitting in a closed place where you have to learn a language that you do not master, which is French. But when she saw the results on my mother also decided that it was painful, and she decided that all the 3 girls she had in Africa in the 60s should follow that path. So yes, it's possible, and you have to show that it's not the fact that of your social origin, but it's the energy, the ambition, the connection, the dream also you have. Because if you don't dream, if you are not a fool, you will never achieve that, because probably you will not dream and you will say it's just not possible for me. So I never thought it was not possible for me. Probably I did it because I did not know that it was impossible for an African woman. And I've met, for example, girls who didn't believe it was possible. When I was special representative, I went on to free up some soldier girls. They were like 13 years old. And I said naturally and happily, now that you have been freed up from the rebels in the Eastern Congo, you should be happy because you can have a beautiful living. And she said that she was not especially happy because she was, according to her, too old to go at school. And I asked her, what do you want to make of your life? And she said, I want to be a sailor. And I said to her, you cannot be a sailor in the 2014 at that time, because you can be more ambitious today as a girl and as a child. And she said to me that she doesn't understand what I was saying. I said, you can dream about more, being an MP, being a president of a country. And she didn't believe me because for her, it was not possible to see a woman MP. She just said, I've never seen a woman MP here in the dark of the Kivu. She has never seen also a president of a National Assembly, especially not a girl or a woman. And she has never seen or heard or reached or being in the sphere where she can see Angela Merkel or Helen Sirleaf as woman president. And that shows really the effort and the gap that we have to do. Because if they do not have access to that role model, they cannot dream about it. So for her, the dream was a sailor. And she said a sailor because a sailor, she is giving instruction to other people and she can be the boss of a sewing company. So there was the idea of being independent and being a boss. But she was not able to say that dreaming about Angela Merkel in the dear heart of Kivu or Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was self-speaking for her. So it's very important to show role model. The more role model we have, an example, we can show, the more and the higher our young girls will be able to go through. So yes, my vision changed. It's not only for me, but it's also for the next generation, or the girl next door who believe that you need to be rich in Africa to succeed something. It's not true.
That's a beautiful vision. Like I say, so I believe that many people will connect with that, and hopefully a lot of people will sort of take inspiration for what you keep on doing. Thank you for that. So let me continue, because like I say, your career is very, very rich. So let me move now into our motherland, right, Africa. And then I know I can see you're also very passionate about the topic of energy and electricity.
Yes.
And you wrote an article recently where you were talking about the dual challenges that the continent faces. One is climate change, but another one as well is electricity access. And when we look at the two, we may feel that they don't always fit one another. But I wanted to hear from you, because you've written such a beautiful article. So how do you think we should reconcile the two, or should we do that at all?
Yes, I think you named the paradox, because there is this idea of how do we get access to energy, which is powering social basic needs of African countries. And on the other hand, how do we join the global call for climate change and all what goes with it. So on African energy success, I just say, as a proud African woman, that I have traveled over many African countries, and whether it's in urban cities, whether it's in rural cities, we have all the same issue. It's about lack of access to energy, whatever is your population, Nigeria, Ethiopia, DRC, or South Africa, Ivory Coast, Senegal, and more. Without insulting anybody, but the challenge of satisfying the full energy needs of our full population is still a challenge for our leaders. So African energy poverty is not a global climate solution, because basically they said, well, you have to stop to pollute by using a certain type of energy. But Africa bears the less responsibility for climate change, but it faces its most dangerous effect. You have seen overflooding in Mozambique and so on. However, our energy needs, if we try to measure it, is great and is big, and it won't be immediately met by renewable energy alone, solar and wind and biomass. It's not possible given the level of energy power we need. Today, for example, there is 600 million Africans out of the 1.2 billion community that we do represent on the continent who lack access to electricity. And achieving universal energy access must be treated, for me, as a human right. There should not be two lanes, one for Africa and one for the rest of the world, because failure to do so would also have dangerous consequences. And you think about these people who are traveling and leaving Africa because they want to make a living in another country. They speak then about immigration. You see this young African who go to radicalism because they don't see hope in their day-to-day condition of life. So consequence may be dangerous if we go in this two-lane, two standards dialogue about access to electricity. In sub-Saharan Africa, 12 million new people enter every year on the labor market. They are young people, less than 30 years, and they want to make a living in their continent. It's not true that they want and they dream about United States of Europe. The proof is that Nollywood shows us every day that Africans want to dream with their model. And Nollywood success is just an ambition of the African to live and to feel life under their own lens. So if we are able to make better condition in terms of access to electricity, which is transformational impact, then I think the continent will have find a first answer, and our prosperity and peace are depending on economic, on the power. Our economic and growth development depends on the power. And I think also our security and peace depend on the power. And we cannot do that in the dark. It should not be light for the rest of the world and dark for Africa. On the climate change, I have already said, and I will keep on insisting and repeating it, that Africa is the swinging factor with the power of our forestry, the second after the Amazonian forest, a good reserve, a good land for the rest of the world. Climate change is a global problem, but the response must also incorporate the reality of the historic emission context. The biggest power, China, Europe, United States, they bear the most responsibility for greenhouse gas emission. That's the reality, it's figure, it's facts. There is no propaganda, it's facts. So they are still using significant amounts of coal to these days. And why is Africa expected to transition only, exclusively, entirely to renewable? And imposing higher emission reduction requirements on the EU and the US and China, I think, will do fair justice on this issue of climate change, because we still need a variety of power generation. We still need various methods to expand our energy access. So that's how I see the dual challenge. And I think there is a ways out. I think a compromise can be found. It's just a question of willingness and political, how to say that, political commitment on both sides.
That's excellent. So you believe, because Africa, as you say, and I love this expression, the swinging factor, this should be used as a leverage when we go into negotiation at COP26. I know you're a part of COP26. We haven't met there, unfortunately, but I know you were there. But so basically, we should be using the fact that we're swinging factor to sort of weigh on the negotiation to get a lot more for the continent. Is that what you think?
Yes, I think we should do a lot more for the continent, because, you know, this pledge and this announcement, which are just there done during the conference and then nothing happens, or few things happens, I think it's not good. We should learn lessons from the COVID-19 power race, I would say, where we have seen again like a two-tier world, a world where people can be vaccinated once, twice, and then a security dose a third time, while there is another space of the world where people have difficulties even to be vaccinated once. Shall we go from this model to the model or the conversation about the energy access for Africa compared to the rest of the world, or the superpower who are already industrialized? So I think, yes, we should do a little bit more. We should do a little bit more. You know, this conversation about Africa should limit itself to renewable energy only, don't go to the gas. I think it's not fair, it's not realistic neither. And I would like to see a more European bank. We have seen the Africa-European Union summit last week. I think that they committed for 150 billion for Africa. Yes, it's good. And I think one of the priorities should be to leverage this kind of summit, to leverage this kind of financing for more energy model in favor of Africa. I remember that recently the big powers, like they are called or portrayed in news, they have voting stakes in international organizations, and they pledge up to 20 countries to decide to stop financing gas projects abroad. Is it fair? Because at the same time, they are still using and building gas projects in their own countries. So they consider that natural gas is a bridge to renewable energy transition for the global north. But when it comes to Africa, they say no more new project of gas financing. It's an unnecessary luxury for the African. And I think this debate has to be changed. They have to listen to us. They have to pay attention and to give consequence to what we said. Because basically, without minerals from Africa, there will be no energetic transition, no green energetic transition without the mineral of Africa. So that should be heard and that should be probably respected.
I think I definitely subscribe to the point that you made there. And yes, on the back of COP26, and I'm sure discussion started at COP26, Europe decided to rename gas as a sustainable fuel. I think nuclear as well, which, as you mentioned, should be good news for Africa, providing that we also allow those projects to happen in Africa, and for Africa, and not just for certain people. I actually agree with you. Now, when I have the privilege to speak to people that I say close to power, if I may say that, or at least have a level of influence on decision makers in our continent, I also like to, let's say, to challenge you a little bit, if you allow me to, because I also believe that as a continent, if we really speak from one voice, right, and we definitely, because you say we have, and this is what many Africans don't realize, we have power, we have assets, we just don't realize what they are, but we have it. Yeah. So my question then to you is, as Africans then, so are we really coming together to present one solid front, especially when we go into powerful influential summit like COP26, COP27, or are we still a little bit divided? And if we're still a little bit divided, how can we then bring those forces together?
I think that going back to where we started, there had been some progress. At least now we have Mr. Climate, I would say, a Mr. Climate, an ombudsman for the African continent. And I know he fought hard. But, you know, also, countries do not have friends, they just have interest. And sometimes that positioning is difficult to reconcile with a regional, a continental positioning. Because the reality on economic, on security or geopolitical level, it's a little bit changing from one country to another. But there have been efforts from the past or from the initial starting point up to today. I think there had been some progress. But we should reinforce that, we should refine that. And I think that interim period from the next COP27 should be more gathering, more discussion, more forward thinking from the African bloc, because that's the only way to progress and to progress together. I don't think there can be a single victory. Usually Africa has been strong enough when they were really in team on some transversal issue. You have seen for the COVID-19, Africa has been together in team, and so finally they obtain the fact that they can produce their own drugs, their own COVID-19 drugs on the African continent to avoid being dependent of the rest of the world. And this came from a strong team diplomatic initiative from main African countries, with South Africa being one of the front leader, African Union being on the forefront of the debate. So if we have been able to reach that point with the COVID-19 approach, I think we can also take the lessons from the African unity on the COVID-19 vaccine approach and to transfer it on the climate change conversation. I'm convinced we can do it as good as there.
Absolutely. In fact, the COVID-19 spirit should be really used in many other areas in order to realize fast progress. I absolutely with you there. I just have a couple of more questions because I know that we're also mindful of the time here. So as you were talking about the initiatives that one can take, I was wondering whether there is a particular initiative in the green space or beyond that you really want to bring to light in this conversation? Because I don't want people to miss that. So is there maybe any particular initiative you need to highlight here?
Yes. Like I told you, I like to have impact, and I'm passionate about things, tools who can change life of people. So at my home level, I joined a startup company who distributes solar home system, and it's making a difference. We are proving the viability for the time being of both the technological side of it and the business model. And it's in the city of Kinshasa, where we've got more than 10 million people, of which 60% lack access to electricity. So I joined the startup. I was impressed because it's a young company with young business entrepreneur, and there is the content of social entrepreneurship in it. The company is called Lux Africa. It's headed on a very independent manner by them, but I joined them as a godmother and giving them some time access and connection to decision makers. Because when you start an initiative like that, you need financing, you need technical assistance, you need a lot of tools to make the initiative become robust. So they are busy doing that, and I'm quite impressed. And we have interesting and moving stories about that. The first client they had was a woman, and it tells a lot. The first client they had was a woman. She was a young woman, less than 30. And she said she bought the solar home system kit because she wished her own daughter, 7-year-old, to start her first or second graduate primary school, to be able to do her homework after 5 when it's dark. So she really was the first client, and she was with her daughter. So it was impressive. And you really directly connect with the issue of, yes, it's climate change, it's Africa energy access, but that is really changing the life of the mama of Africa, of the mama of Congo, city of Kinshasa. So yes, I am also interested by concrete action, not just blah, 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 because that's my way of working. And I also work and I'm associated with several university and think tank, one of which is particularly the Brookings Institute, and I praise them because they have a good and strong African department, which is headed by Mr. Aloysius, and it brings really together a lot of talents, influencers from Africa, to help us think out of the box about weakness which are plaguing Africa from rising. So yes, I'm trying to be a small and humble advocate for our African continent.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Basically, definitely, entrepreneurship is changing the world, and entrepreneurship will change Africa. I definitely believe in that. I think you started this conversation with a clear theme, right? Strong women, powerful women, women that could achieve. And I want to go back into that, because as I was listening to you, I'm sure my wife would love this interview, actually. She would definitely would love it. And by the way, for the little story, she's also actually the one who got me into entrepreneurship. Before I get into it, I was actually, moving closely towards, comfortable career as an engineer, because I'm an engineer at start. She got me into entrepreneurship, and since she got me into there, I started wondering, so how did I not start it before, right? So definitely,
exactly.
Women have a very, very strong power. So I'd like to close this conversation and ask you, for the many young girls and women who are looking up to you and will be listening to you today, is there any tips and hints that you can give them so that they can grab it, like the secret recipe, and make sure that they can rise to the top just like you, or even beyond? Because I know that's your desire.
Exactly. And my hope, basically, when I see all the talents in Africa these days in different sectors, I hope that girls can be part of that change. And my hope for the next generation is that this girl will aspire to achieve whatever goals they set for themselves. I also hope that we make sure to empower them to reach their full potential, and that they are free from any complex, any challenges and constraints that my generation, for example, faced. I have always been in jobs where when you enter into the meeting room, you are the only woman and you have to face that. I remember my first meeting at the, like a special representative to combat sexual violence. My first meeting, I had to go to see the chief commander to tell him that his soldiers were a little bit nasty to girls when they were on the field, and that was not good. And he said, yes, you can come to the meeting. And I came to the meeting without really realizing it was the army or the chief commander. So I came, myself alone in my notebook, and I entered into a space where I saw like 40 generals and their chief commanders, and they were all surprised to see me alone with my notebook, and a girl also, it was a woman. So I hope that the next generation will less have that sensation that you are alone at the top, that there is a glass ceiling. And if young women are not dreaming bigger, reaching farther, if we close the door of mentoring, they will not be able to achieve more success than us. And if they do not go further than us, then I think it's a failure. It's a failure for, not only for us women, but for Africa, because they can make the difference. And for me, our best measure of success today is really what will be the face of the next generation of girls in Africa tomorrow, and not the fact that I will be like an exception in a men's world. It's more important to see that there is this mushrooming effect, and I'm sure that it's happening, it's moving. We saw a lot of girls now shining out in Africa and going beyond African borders to show that Africa has also something to demonstrate and to share with the rest of the world.
Excellent. I like to close with two quotes. One of them is from President Obama, who said once, you need to be the change that you seek, right? And in your case, Mrs. Jeanine Mabunda, it couldn't be more true, because your life, your experience, your career, I just demonstrated you are the change that you are seeking, and you are breaking barriers, and you are inspiring many people. And the second quote I want to mention is that of President Nelson Mandela, who was also saying that it's always seemed impossible until it's done. And definitely, again, in your example, this is what you're showing every day. It has been a delightful pleasure for me to talk to you, and I'm hoping I'm going to keep on hearing more and more of your successes and the way you inspire other people. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, and I wish you also all the best, because you have already done a tremendous career and a tremendous achievement to speak about Africa under the lens of energy, and I think we all encourage you, and thank you for receiving me.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Greet your wife for me then.
I will do so.
Thanks.
Thank you.